Thanks for staying with us. Now, the federal government said that it is working out modalities to begin the disbursement of student loans in September. David Adejo, who is the permanent secretary at the Federal Ministry of Education, disclosed this while answering questions from journalists in Abuja on Wednesday. President Bola Tinubu on Monday signed the bill to give students access to interest-free loans into law. Now, according to Adejo, President Tinubu has directed that the first recipients of the loan must be available for the 2023-2024 academic session. And that's what we're talking about today, the controversy around that bill. What do people know? What don't they know? Is it simpler than people imagine? Because there are a lot of speculations and a lot of people are speaking on that bill. But let's talk to someone who is in the education sector and who was a major player in the last general election. Let's speak with the presidential candidate of the Accord Party in the last general election, Professor Chris Imumolen. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for inviting.
It's been a while. I mean, you ran and then, one would say that there is no loser, everyone is a winner. So let's start by congratulating you for even being part of that election.
Thank you.
But you are in the education sector. You've always been in the education sector. When you saw that the president has signed this particular bill into law, what was your reaction?
Okay, I think this is my first media interview after the election because so I've been now we are done with campaign. It's now time to govern. And for me as a person, all I want is a better country. So I am not going to sit at any side of the fence to criticize what is good or nod my head at what is not okay. So what we'll be doing now is to watch and ensure that we have a better country. So I haven't said that. My core is education. I haven't been in the educational sector for many years. And when we were going all around, we spoke about education. And if you look at what the present government is doing, it's more like the manifesto of everybody. We all know the problem. And I think we are beginning to see, sincerely from my own view, because there are some things I want to say here that might not go down well with some persons, but from my view, we are beginning to see an administration that has that will to begin to implement what should have been done. We, for a very long time, have had governments who have promised what is not possible, and we are now seeing the loan implementation, and we are getting to know that the truth that tertiary institutions cannot be fully funded by government, and there is need to cushion, and those are part of the things we are doing, which is in the right direction. Yes, it happens in every developed country in the world, in the United States, in virtually every part. Students are aided to pay their school fees because education is very, very important and it shouldn't be a privilege to a very few persons. So with what has happened so far, I think I'm very much happy. And again, if we look critically into that bill, you're going to see a sign of faith. The sign of faith is this, that students get to pay back 2 years after their NYSC. It's a sign of faith.
But isn't that assuming that they would have already gotten a job? Because that's what a lot of people are also worried about, that, look, the moratorium, if I would use the word, when you are done with NYSC, that time that you have to pay is 2 years. But what if you haven't gotten a job by then?
2 years, you are paying 10% of your profit or salary. You read it very well. It means that there's a faith. The faith is therefore that government know that they have a lot of things to do. Then we must make sure that we stimulate the economy so that young graduates who finishes at least 2 years after the NYSC, they should have themselves doing something or get themselves employed. It's a statement of faith. I like that faith. It's a sign of taking up responsibility. Nobody wants to give out something without having to work to collect back. It's a sign of faith. And the faith is not, the statement is not you pay 10% from nowhere. You pay 10% if you are employed or if you have something doing. That is why it said 10% of your salary or profits of your businesses.
So should we assume that, look, if by 2 years we're hoping that people who graduate, that we have enough jobs in the country for people to work, but should we assume that, look, if you then don't have a job 2 years after, that you're still, in the clear, not to be able to pay, and then government gives you that time until you get a job?
I wouldn't talk for government, but I'm just...
I'm asking from your own understanding.
And how it's been done, how it's been done everywhere, which I believe that is the same practice that's going to apply here. If a graduate does not get a job of course, a responsible government, which I believe this particular government is, would not, if you don't have anywhere to pay from, you are not going to pay. But we still need Nigeria to be sincere to the fact that once you have something doing within that time, you should be responsible enough to pay what you have taken. It's a very fair game, and it's what we have been anticipating for a year, that the tertiary sector of the Nigerian education have this privilege to have children that is nobody go to school. And what that will do is government can now focus on properly funding the tertiary educational system. Look at what has happened to the removal of oil subsidy, about 7 trillion. And the last request from ASU was the 1.3 trillion that was supposed to be part of the revitalization fund that's supposed to be sent to the university. You can see we are hoping that there will be fund available to make sure that the labs in the university are working. What we've had in the Nigerian university have been just chunking out people without adequate education. That is just the truth. People get certificates, but they are not really educated to meet up. We have Nigerians brilliant, but those facilities are not there. So we want to begin to see the university, the polytechnic, the monotechnics, the college of educations being properly funded, being given their attention, having known that, okay, students cannot get support for funding from the government through loan, then things should be done in the right way.
And I was listening to, I think is the, I was reading a comment made rather by the ASU chairman or national chairman of ASU, who said, national president of ASU, who said, look, this particular bill said tuition, and most universities, federal universities are tuition free. That what they pay are other fees. And I've also heard, I think it was the pro-chancellor of UNILAG who also said the same thing, but that probably that should be expanded. That look, they don't pay tuition in some of these universities. They are tuition free. They just pay other fees. There's also the part of the argument that look, sometimes even the schools that say they pay tuition, the tuition is little compared to all the other fees that you pay, the hostel fees, the books you have to buy, laboratory fees, for example. And then when you put all of that together, it's more than tuition. Do you think that it should have been expanded to cover other fees that you have to pay in school? Because you just said tuition.
No, every student in every university, we went to university, we paid to the school account. Now we have this centralized account where people pay. National Open University, student pay. You can have students. In UNILAG, every school, student pay. So these fees are sum up, either laboratory fee, medical fitness fee, health service fee. They are all sum up and paid into this account that is provided by the school.
So that's what becomes
that becomes the tuition. That becomes what the students are paying. So whatever you pay, for example, to rent hostel outside the school, or whatever you're paying to get textbooks, sometimes you pay to buy textbook, but whatever is paid to the school account or the account that is given becomes what the student is responsible for. And it's on that the student can, I believe, can apply for the support loan to aid them. Yeah, which it means that we have moved a leap. Look at, go to Ghana, for example. I'm sorry if I'm mentioning it, but we have to compare. Education are expensive. We operate in those places. Go to other West African, education can be very expensive. So now, government now have that. Student can now, I believe we can have students who are truly educated. And this would also, in coming years, would attract foreign students. I believe.
When you say students who are really educated, would that be because they were not able to pay tuition? Doesn't that have to do with other factors to get students really educated?
No, that have to do with the fact that there's no proper provision. If you look at what government have been doing, the ASU is requesting for 1.3 trillion. This is an agreement they had since 2019. Government had promised but cannot do that. So what happens now with the removal of fuel subsidy, with the economic boost, and there's a lot of things that's going to happen. I believe the government will be doing that. There would be proper focus to ensuring that. Look at in April, just April before the last admission left, about 30 billion have been allocated for 6 universities, 6 polytechnic, and 6 monotechnic. This would go ahead to ensure that more schools have access, federal and state university. And this particular sector control about 90% of Nigerians in tertiary education. So there would be, for me, a focus to funding and ensuring that there's equipment, there's proper training and retraining for our lecturers, there's access to digital education, there's access to even the welfare of the lecturers, which has been a long-time complaint. So we now have that focus. And it's a very organized system, and it happens everywhere. So if anyone is complaining about this, then we need to look at what's happening in other countries that today have one of the best education, student loan aids. Because once
student loan is now a burden in the U.S. To the point where the President Biden is now looking to forgive, some student, at least some amounts, and say, look, we're going to at least take out some of this amount for you, so you can focus, because it's really a debt. People work and spend their time paying off their student loan. Do you foresee a situation where that also becomes a problem, where people are working and it looks like, oh, this is a burden on their shoulder just to pay a student loan?
Yeah, every responsible government at a time in the US, we have loan forgiveness. It comes time to time. But the truth is this: funding education and making sure that every school, every university have all it takes to properly educate your citizen takes a lot of fund. And if the burden, for example, is pushed to the student to pay to be huge, eventually we might have Nigerians what we have today, who are not, sorry to say, our education system is not one of the best in Africa, let alone the world. So what I'm seeing the government wanting to do is to really fund, to make sure that we have state-of-the-art facilities in our university system. And it will cost so much money for an individual, hence the student loan. Yes, in the future, it could turn out to be what the US is facing, but it's still a better situation than not having any facility in your university at all. And talking out graduates who cannot talk about robotics, who cannot talk about artificial intelligence, who cannot talk about building space. We talk about entrepreneurs in all these countries. They are products of the educational system. And it comes with critical funding of that system. That is what I see the government of this administration wants to do. And that is what we also have clamored, that is the kind of education we need. And once such a fund is pumped into the education system, to retrain, to digitalize, to do a lot of things, to change the curriculum and have a new curriculum that will build Nigeria to solve not just local problems.
But this particular fund only just addresses, tuition fees for people who are not able to meet that requirement because of, family income. But I want to talk about one of the eligibility requirements, which is, what a lot of people are, also wondering. It says that, your family income must be less than 500,000. For somebody who earns the minimum wage today, maybe the family income, if you just one parent who earns minimum wage at 30,000, would be less than 500,000. But if you have two parents earning, the minimum wage, it means that automatically, and we're talking about just minimum wage, automatically, your family income is above 500,000, and that disqualifies you. If the minimum wage is then increased because of the fuel subsidy, as we're already hearing, it also now means that, it also disqualifies you. That 500,000 naira limit, do you think that it should be reviewed?
Yes, let's have good faith in the government. Let's get a proper interpretation of what that means from them, especially when it's time to start disbursing the funds. So I believe that how would we have over 70% of Nigerians not working under government? So how would government get to? And we live in a country that is not data-based. So you can only get to know that maybe from the the civil service sector. But what about a lot of people who have businesses on themselves who you cannot actually ascertain what they claim? But I think we will leave that to those who've been implementing that. And I don't think that 500,000 benchmark would be a good one. But I think we have them there. Nigerians are to me personally, should have access to this. Those who cannot pay, I know we have so many who can still pay. That is what is normal in every society. Nigeria is not going to be the first country that would implement that. If I had won, those are also part of the direction I'm also going through, and that is why I speak for it. It's a good policy, and we should be patient to see the implementation.
And you advise those who are skeptical at the moment, because some Nigerians are skeptical whether they want to take advantage of it. Would you advise students who are skeptical to take advantage of this act?
It is, because it's not, what if there's a faith in the bill that says 2 years after your NYSC, 10% of your salary or your income is faith. So it's not, to me, a burden. If you are truly educated, education costs a lot. We've seen Nigeria leave the shores of this country. The only time I'm going to speak against this bill is when education does not improve. is when we don't have those equipment in our institution, is when our lecturers are not trained and retrained, is when the graduates that will be chunking out of the universities are not merging up with what. But if that happens, I think it's okay.
Basically, this reform should be all-encompassing for the education sector. Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to us. Good to see you, and thank you for giving us your first interview after the general election. We've been speaking with the presidential candidate of the Accord Party in the just concluded general election, Professor Chris Imumolen. We're talking about the Student Loan Act just signed into now signed into law by the president. But that's where we leave it. Thank you for watching. You can watch a repeat broadcast at 11 p.m. tonight and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. I am Precious Amayi.